The big breaking news which we are tracking at this point in time, a big declaration by US President Donald Trump in a post which he has shared. He states, and I quote, "It was an honor to speak with Prime Minister Narendra Modi this morning. He's one of my greatest friends and a powerful and respected leader of his country. We spoke about many things, including trade and ending the war with Russia and Ukraine. He agreed to stop buying Russian oil and to buy much more from the United States and personally Venezuela." Donald Trump goes on to say that this will end the war in Ukraine, which is taking place right now with thousands of people dying each and every week. He hails the friendship which he shares with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and says, as per his request, effective immediately, we agreed to a trade deal between the United States and India, whereby the United States will charge a reduced reciprocal tariff, lowering it to 25% to 18%, viewers. There you have it. He goes on to say also that they will likewise move forward to reduce their tariffs and tariff barriers against the United States. That's the big breaking news which we are tracking at this point in time. I'm being joined by my colleague Rishabh on the broadcast here. Rishabh, first of all, for the benefit of our viewers, help us understand, because Donald Trump in his post has mentioned a lot of things. Help us understand, what does this post by Donald Trump mean, and go and explain us every point which he has made in the post when it comes to lowering down the tariffs.
Well, Shubhangi, who would have thought that this announcement will come in a social media post, something that has been fought over tooth and nail for last 1 year. Statements after statements, literally war of words between Delhi and Washington. A number of allegations coming over as well in this whole, leak reports that we have seen in American media in last 1 month. And now suddenly, within a week, when we had the quote-unquote mother of all deals with the European Union, U.S. President decides to announce India-U.S. deal. But there are few things which needs further more clarification. Has India actually agreed to stop Russian import of oil? That is something that India needs to come clean on. B, when it comes to 18% of tariff, has India agreed to this, disparity in the tariff, that we are ready to bring it down to 0%, while US is bringing it down only to 18%. What happens to the 25% additional tariff that is levied on us because of the import of Russian oil from here on? And finally, when will this and how long will this deal stand? Because remember, is it a stopgap deal? Is it a long-term deal? Or is it an interim deal? Or it's the first tranche of the deal? All these needs to be clarified. Sources within Government of India suggest that in another 30-35 minutes, we'll have a clear picture from here, New Delhi, as well. And we are waiting for that. The Government of India, as of now, has not released an iota of information on this deal. That a paragraph has come in from...
Right, Rishabh, do stay on with us, as I have Arison Singh joining us on the broadcast here. Thank you so much for speaking to Times Now at this point in time. So my very first question, what is unclear right now is that US has reduced reciprocal tariffs to 18%, but what about the 25% penalty he had imposed for buying Russian oil? Because he now claims that India is stopping import of Russian oil, but he hasn't actually announced an elimination of that penalty.
You would have noticed one thing, that all the talking is being done by the Americans. When I say Americans, I'm implying Trump. So it is very obvious that he painted himself pushed himself into a corner and did not know how to come out of that. So therefore, he is making unilateral statements of this nature. But the fact of the matter is that he has made a climb down. There is the doubt about it. He was the one who raised the tariffs. He's the one who is now saying that the tariffs have been reduced. There has been no comment from India, so I suppose that this is India has played its diplomacy with great amount of finesse and dexterity. And we waited for the turn of the geopolitical events to take turn, and definitely we all knew that it will take turn in our favor. And after we signed this mother of all deals with the European Union, actually Trump had very little choice.
Right.
If you see, and the entire as the politics, global geopolitics is evolving, he had very little. This is a moment of triumph from India, for India.
Right.
And we should all take pride in this. We should all take pride, the heft that you have acquired, economic and strategic heft, globally.
Right, Arison Singh, thank you so much for joining us with all those information here on the broadcast. Here, viewers, on my screen here, I have US President Donald Trump's post, which has sparked the big breaking news at this point in time. And I'll take you through exactly what he has said in this post. He says, and I quote, "It was an honor to speak with Prime Minister of India this morning. He's one of my greatest friends and a powerful and respected leader of his country. We spoke about many things, including trade and ending the war with Russia and Ukraine. He agreed to stop buying Russian oil and to buy much more from the United States and potentially Venezuela. This will end the war in Ukraine, which is taking place right now, with thousands of people dying each and every week." He goes on to say that out of friendship and respect for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and as per his request, effective immediately, we agreed to a trade deal between the United States and India, whereby the United States will charge a reduced reciprocal tariff, lowering it from 25% to 18%. Viewers, that's the breaking news. They will likewise move forward to reduce their tariffs and non-tariff barriers against the United States to zero. The Prime Minister also committed to buy American at much higher level, in addition to over $500 billion of US energy, technology, agriculture, coals, and many other products. Our amazing relationship with India will be even stronger going forward. So here you can clearly see Donald Trump, first of all, praising Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is not the first time when he has hailed his friendship with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and India. And second, he's also made an announcement claiming that the tariffs have now, reciprocal tariff, have been reduced to 18% from 25%. I have on my screen Prime Minister Narendra Modi's tweet after US President's tweet, which I was just reading right now. He says, and I quote, "Wonderful to speak with my dear friend President Trump today. Delighted that Made in India product will now have a reduced tariff of 18%. So that's the first confirmation coming in from Indian side, with Prime Minister himself confirming that the Made in India products will now have reduced tariff of 18%. Big thanks to President Trump on behalf of 1.4 billion people of India for this wonderful announcement. When two large economies and the world's largest democracies work together, it benefits our people and unlocks immense opportunity for mutually beneficial cooperation. President Trump's leadership is vital for global peace, stability, and prosperity. India fully supports his effort for peace. I look forward to working closely with him to take our partnership to unprecedented heights." I have my colleague Pragya joining us on the broadcast here. Pragya, thank you for joining us at this moment. We have the official confirmation coming in from India, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself posting about it, confirming that the reciprocal tariffs have been reduced to 18%. Now, this is the first confirmation. It's the big deal which has come at this point in time. Take us through the details.
Well, you're absolutely right, and this is also a moment of pride for India. In fact, India waited very patiently, and not just that, it strategized, around the bilateral trade, and this is why free trade agreements picked up the pace, be it EU and EU FTA trade deal that we had. And in fact, the government also realized the supply chains have become a state power tool. And this is exactly the reason why India decided that it is not going to sit and wait for US to go to the negotiating table, but India would rather use its leverage with other countries and strike bilateral trade agreements. In fact, US must have realized that they're losing out on a very important partner. We are emerging as biggest economies of the world, as US is. The quantum may be very different, but the fact is that we are one of the biggest economies, emerging economies in the world. And this is exactly the reason why we are seeing this trade deal being, signed now, and it is now confirmed from both the sides, from America and from India as well. However, there is much to be, explained in this particular deal, as the amount of announcement that have been made by U.S. President about we not buying from Russia and we buying from U.S. or from Venezuela. I think the government will be clarifying that very soon on that front. But yes, it is a big moment, and this is exactly the reason why Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the kind of friendship and leadership which is required in the world today for global peace, stability, prosperity, and India fully supports the efforts for peace.
Right, a truly great moment for India and United States, both at this point in time. I'm also being joined by my colleague Hina on the broadcast here. Thank you so much for speaking, Hina. At this point in time, this announcement was much awaited. You know, a year back when United States slapped reciprocal tariffs on India, that point in time till now, it was a moment of uncertainty. And now you have India officially confirming the Trump's announcement. But, at this point in time, one crucial point is that this comes just days after the announcement of mother of all deals. Should we see it as some sort of catalyst when it comes from the United States side?
Well, many people in India had said that, what's happening between India and EU, the mother of trade deals that's really being signed between both of them, it's definitely going to have an impact on on our negotiations with America. It's going to also give us some kind of bargaining power as far as our negotiations with America are concerned on a number of issues. But I'm just wondering, what will this be called if that was called as the mother of all deals? But coming to the moot point here, and there are several questions that remain unanswered. For example, both the leaders here, starting from Donald Trump, because he was the first one to make this announcement, and now Prime Minister Narendra Modi, both of them have mentioned one thing, that now we will have a reduced tariff of 18%. The question is, does it mean President Trump has now waived off the 25% penalty that he had levied on India for buying Russian oil? Because if you look at our tariffs that we were, paying, they were 50% and not 25%. 25% was the tariff, and then additional 25% was the penalty that we were paying for buying oil from Russia. Now, U.S. President in his post has also claimed that the Prime Minister has agreed to stop buying Russian oil. So if that has been waived off, it's a big thing for Indian exporters for sure. We're waiting for more clarity on that aspect. And second important thing is that, since both sides have confirmed this particular deal, and it seems that now it has been done, now we'll have to wait and see about, what the contours of this deal really are going to be, whether it's going to be implemented immediately, because, soon after U.S. President put out this long post giving details, we had this post coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, wherein he has confirmed. He called it a wonderful announcement. He even said, as you were reading out for our viewers, that it was wonderful to speak with with dear friend President Trump today, and he said that he's delighted that made in India products will now have a reduced tariff of 18%. Now, he's also said he thanked President Trump on behalf of 1.4 billion people of India for this wonderful announcement. So it's a great news that India has got today. But now what we will wait for is some more details as to, how much have we agreed on, because there were some sticky issues as well, that we did not want to, give away, for example, the agricultural space specifically. So all those details are now awaited.
Right, thank you so much, Hina, for joining us with all those details here. I also have Pathikrit Payne, geopolitical analyst, joining us at this time on the broadcast. Thank you so much for speaking 2 times now, sir. My very first question to you would be that Donald Trump right now has not announced as of now any pause on the penalty which India was paying till now to United States. And we are also yet to announce that we will stop buying Russian oil completely. How should we see Donald Trump's announcement coming in at this point in time in this aspect particularly?
So basically, yes, there is a reduction in India's, procurement of oil from Russia, but India still continues to procure at least more than 1 million barrels per day. So the question of India completely giving up on Russian oil does not arise. But it appears, even though we still do not have the nitty-gritties and details, it appears that United States is willing to waive off that 25% penalty, along with reduction of the tariff from 25 to 18%. See, I think if you look at the larger context, this itself is the victory of Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy and the resilience shown by government of India during extremely challenging times. And, the typical Western or American pressure tactics we have seen in the last few months, that they would increase the tariffs, put a lot of pressure, all kinds of negative things will be said about that particular economy. And then they expect that particular economy to succumb and eventually agree to a trade deal with United States. In this case, it has been a complete exception because India, in spite of the tariffs and the penalties imposed, India went ahead, had a magnificent growth, economic growth. The projections for the next financial year is almost 7.3%. India diversified its export basket. India went ahead and had deal with European Free Trade Association and European Union, which has been termed as a mother of all deal, even while not giving up on its own strategic autonomy, and even while not opening up the agriculture sector or the poultry, fisheries and dairy sector. So in this case also, it is very clear that India has created those red lines and have stuck to that, which means India will not open up the agriculture, dairy, fisheries and poultry market. And whatever deal you have potentially with United States is without any kind of compromise on these things. So I think this is a great victory of Prime Minister Modi, a great victory of India's External Affairs Ministry, an amazing work that has been done by Mr. Piyush Goyal, and overall the way the country stood by the Prime Minister and Government of India during difficult times, that has shown that in today's era, India has at least reached at that stage where threats will no more work on India. India's resilience has once again been proved, but at the same time, it is important to make it very clear. India has never made any negative comment on the United States. India has been nuanced, very, very stoic in its approach, and that patient diplomacy actually paid off. Unfortunately, in the last few months, we have seen all kinds of negative things said by Trump administration people against India, from Howard Lutnick to Scott Bessent to Peter Navarro to Lindsey Graham. Extremely unfortunate and unparliamentary things said about India. But eventually, I think the Americans realized that by their the kind of attitude they had, it is they who are falling behind. And I think the Europeans have got the deal. So I think there has been pressure from Wall Street, I'm sure, for that, because of which this is also a reality that American administration had to somewhere succumb. And yet it is true that it is a win-win situation for both the countries.